Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the JAMODI Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them one rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information. Analytics are such a big part of the game. What happens in the NBA trickles down to college, trickles down now to high school. We feel it, especially with things like huddle, that make it just so easy for us to know exactly what's happening in games. We don't have to just go by feel or what we think we see anymore. How do analytics? What role does that take in your style of play?
Analytics play a big role for me as far as just, style and play, or just say my coaching style. But I will say, if I have to really kind of think about it, I would say my eye test would come first, like what I see. Then second would be analytics, as far as the video breakdowns, or what does that show me? And then third thing would be gut. And so I think those 3 things are kind of characterize kind of my coaching style, and even just style of play from the standpoint of how I make decisions. So when it comes to analytics, basically, we're going to get video of everything. So we're going to film a lot of practices and put it up in huddle. During spring training, we play those spring games. We're going to have a video there. We're going to video it. And I'm going to look at that. We're going to look at video from the summer, preseason. Every time we're playing basketball, I'm getting video. And I like to watch the game after the game.
Yeah.
Just try to compare my eyes to what I thought happened to what actually happened, on the video. And I'm a big scouting report guy, which may not be too highly popular with high school, but again, a lot of my influence is from college with those guys at those college programs. And so, I'm really big into scouting. And obviously to do a scouting report, you need video. And so what we do as far as analytics, we played 35 games this year, I think. And so I would say out of those 35 games, I've done easily 28 scouting reports, and so outside of like tournaments, some of those tournaments where
quick turnaround,
quick turnaround, might not be able to get it, but analytics plays a big role in a lot of what I'm doing in huddle, because I think it confirms what I see. And then it also makes my gut better, because your gut is kind of what you're using to predict the future for the most part, or try to predict something that's going to happen. And for me, if you're not watching, ain't nobody that smart to just catch it all off your eyes. If you're not watching that video after the game and kind of, compiling information to figure it out, analytics is a big part for me in what I'm doing. Yeah.
Coach, I don't think I've ever heard it said like that, because you're right. Those 3 things, eyes, analytics, and feel or gut. But what I think happens quite a bit is we go off of one of the 3 the most. And there's danger in that. There's danger in only going off your eyes. You said what you think you saw. Do you really think do I really think I'm that smart that I can really keep it all in and just, paint a clear picture of what just happened? Analytics. If you only go by analytics, then you should do what Houston Rockets with D'Antoni did, which is the guys that shoot mid-range had their faces up on the board, and not in a positive way. Like that, they were, like that was a bad thing. You do not want to see your face up there. Well, what if you have a kid that is actually good at that, can hit a mid-range jumper off the bounce? To me, that's super dangerous. To have a player that can do that, hard to guard. And so, but if you're an analytics guy pure, you don't let him take that shot. And then gut, man, our feelings, sometimes they betray us. Sometimes like our emotions, how much we care, can get in the way of making the right decision at the right time. But what is really good is a balance between those three things. I don't think you cut any of them out. I don't think any of them can run it. I think all three of those are important.
Yeah, man, you need it. I think and I think as coaches, if you coach for, let's say, 30 years, unless you're lucky to just always be in a spot where you got kids that can really play, I'm passionate about winning, man. I want to win games. And for me, you got to have those three things to figure it out, because you might not have kids that's just going to be great defenders or be
Yeah.
great shooters. But as a coach, like I said, these kids going to be what you emphasize. So how do you know what to emphasize if you're not really, using those analytics and the gut and, having a good eye?
And I was trying to think of like what are ways that you can train those areas as a coach because
Oh boy.
without just having the 30 years, like I
Mhm.
mean I'm halfway to 30, right?
I
So
ain't
it's
got.
but it's like I think the way is and our girls coach Matt Garnett is really good with this. He's great at watching film. Every time I see him, I feel like he's got huddle up and he's clipping things. If we want our players to spend time at their craft and to get better, and we want to have better eyes, meaning we see the game at a higher level than we did last year. We want to understand our analytics and really know, does this style of play that I'm asking our guys to do, does the math actually match up? Is it really helping our guys to be the best they could be? And then
Mm.
help those moments in games where we just got to, I know analytics say this, my eyes say this, but my gut says this. Coach, I think we got to train those three things. And to me, it's film. It's going back over the games from last year and actually becoming a student of the game all over again, because that can't just
Right.
happen when we're assistants. It has to continue as we get older.
Absolutely. I was looking at your bio. You played at Baylor, right?
Long time
So
ago.
I'm pretty sure that, you guys did scouting reports and recaps and that type of deal. So for me, that was my biggest influence when I was at Sam Houston State and at University of Houston. That's how I learned, when I was younger. And so for my players, they have notebooks. So we'll
Nice.
do a scouting report, which I try to limit the scouting report to maybe 20, 25 minutes. So before the game, we do the scout. Then that scout, it'll be detailed for the most part. They'll have, like, the top section will be potential impact players. And so we'll have five guys, potential impact players. It'll have strengths, weaknesses. Then it'll have how to win the matchup. And so this is where I think the learning tool is for most kids. So um, I have specific guards that always kind of guard the best player. And so how to win the matchup may be two things. Okay, his favorite move is an in and out. And then he's a great spot up shooter. So you got to jump tip his three, whatever it is, right? So as a player, whenever they start getting those how to win the matchups, that makes it personal to be like, okay, cognitively, I got to remember what this kid is going to do and what his strengths are. And then I also know how am I supposed to basically win the matchup.
Hmm.
So that way, once we get to the recap after the game, that same kid, I like to do a compliment cookie and film, right? So let's say you started with a compliment and say, hey, well, this kid, he really did well in his matchup, and I'll show the different, clips and the stat breakdown or whatever and say, hey, you did this well, but you didn't really jump to these threes. So he went 3 for 4 on you, but yet he didn't get 20. So you pretty much won the matchup. And so when you go through, like, I've had guys that have played for me 3 years here. So some of them have sat through almost 100 film sessions and maybe about 70 recaps over 3 years. So I think, like, when you said about, like, how do you learn it? If one of those players want to become a coach, he already has a background of, basketball terminology and maybe even understanding, like, the when to do what,
Yeah.
to say, okay, you got a kid that's really quick. When I played really quick kids, my coach just had me guarding with space. And I understood what his go-to moves were and how to kind of jump certain places and try to beat him to spots. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely a way to train it as a coach. There's a way to train it as a player, but it takes time. You can't just show up and get your stipend check and go home. As coaches, you got to really be a student of the game yourself and keep learning.
What are some ways, and I think film kind of ties into this, and I love the compliment cookie. That's good. Um, what are ways that you can maybe use film, or what else do you do to build confidence in players? Because throughout a season, um, you can really see players go on roller coasters. I know I did it in college. I saw my
Yeah.
teammates do it in college, and that's a high level, and they struggle. Well, our teenagers are really going to struggle at times, and you could just be the coach that head in the sand. They'll get over it. They'll bounce back, or we can help them get their confidence back or return to a certain level. What do you do?
That's tough, man. I'll say that one of the biggest things that I try to do is our player meetings are going to be goal oriented. Now that might not happen. That's kind of more of a training period type of thing. So that happens kind of quarterly. But that's one thing we do to build confidence because in that player meeting, I'm going to tell you what I think you do well, and I'm going to give you, depending on the time of season, you may have accomplished 2 or 3 goals from the spring that you were supposed to have done by the summer.
Hmm.
I think from a video standpoint, with that setup of having the scouting report and then the recap, that builds confidence in the kid because I'll tell you one thing. I've had kids this year that I just kind of threw into being like lockdown defenders. And so in the beginning, it was kind of like, maybe I'm quick and fast enough. I'm not sure if I'm really a lockdown guy in our press. But then after a couple of games and they locked down some people, it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could do this. So now you build confidence in the kid to do something. And then I think another thing, public acknowledgement.
Hmm.
So I think I was talking about, or I think I mentioned the snack box earlier, kids kind of
Yeah.
coming in and out. And so for us, that's a way on a daily basis or a weekly basis, that's relationship building. We're not always talking about something basketball
Yeah.
related. We could be talking about the football game or, something going on in the school, any type of current. It could be anything, just shooting the breeze. But I think within that time, you could tell if a kid is lacking confidence from practice. And so I could pull them aside and ask them what's going on, so forth and so on. But I think that those 3 things, we talk about video, public acknowledgement, especially social media. And then what else did I say? I said video, I said public
And
acknowledgement,
snack box meetings with them.
yeah, the meetings, the player
Yeah.
meetings. So I think all that stuff can help build the kids' confidence. And sometimes I have some blind spots, man. My assistant coach might see, have you noticed so and so is a little down? Or we had a bad game where he went 0 for 7.
Great role for your assistants to have is to assign them small groups of players and say, like, listen, I really want you to watch these guys closely. And they need to know what is going on. And then ultimately, it's not that we don't as head coaches need to know, but they can report back to us if something is big going on. I think that I like that kind of progression through because you don't have time every day to hit every kid, but your
Yeah,
assistants can.
exactly. And then, every kid has value, even because we have what's called a sophomore team here, sophomore,
Yeah.
JV, and varsity. And I've sat in meetings with, I've sat in meeting with kids on the ninth grade B team just because they're all a part of our culture. Whether they become varsity players or not, we want to build men of impact, men of high attainment. So yeah, building confidence in kids for me is a big part of what we do as coaches.
You mentioned social media. How do you use that with building confidence, but also highlighting your program?
I'll tell you this. I think that social media pretty much nowadays, a lot of people are going to get their news from it. Social media could dictate some people's moods for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. And social media is a big part of society now. So for us, we want people in the greater Houston area to think positively about South Houston. So how do we do that? Social media. We got a whole social media team I got a parent who does a really good job with flyers. I have an assistant coach who he's one of the stat coaches, but he's also the stat compiler kind of after the games. And so he'll come to me and say, hey, so and so had this many points, rebounds, so forth and so on. I've had assistant coaches that type up a social media post and send it to me and I'll post it. Now I'm the only one that has the posting part, but it's a collaborative team effort by, like
Yeah.
I said, the parent, assistant coaches, and myself, because we have to anything that we do positively, we want to put it out there and promote it. For me, there's no such thing as bragging. There's no such thing as, lacking humility when it comes to when you're a part of an organization that you need to have a positive, social media presence. And then it helps with like our feeder pattern around here. When
Yeah.
those middle school kids kind of see, oh, well, South Houston had 27 wins this year and broke the record, or Xavier Muhammad broke the school rebounding record. Jordan Buckner broke the assist record. Like we need all of that positive stuff. And then we do like community service projects or summer workouts, weight room. All of that stuff goes on social media without hesitation. And we got a team to put it out there, man. And you just got to have, because for me, I'm a little bit old school when it comes to social media. When it comes to like my personal stuff, like if you look at my personal Twitter or my personal Facebook, it's pretty much all basketball for the most part. My daughter plays softball. I think she just got MVP of the tournament, so I posted that.
Nice.
But I don't, I don't post a lot of what I'm doing personally on social media.
But
My kid,
I'm not gonna see a picture of you having that breakfast taco with your coffee. A
oh man,
self
I might need to start doing that, man, and then like doing a post with just various breakfast tacos on there and where to get them, man. That might be a good hobby now.
Yeah, he's
But
the taco coach, right? Yeah.
I'm the taco coach, yes, sir, and I know all the good gas stations to go and get a real good
Yeah.
breakfast taco
But you're
and a
right
good
on the
coffee.
money, coach. If you're
Yeah,
not using social media to highlight your players, to highlight your school, your culture, the amazing things that are going on. I mean, there's so much negativity on social media. What if,
yeah,
coach, our program, we used it to highlight positive things? Like what if, right? Shocking.
yeah,
And just make it, because we do want our players to have humility,
hmm,
so, but also self promotion, like especially with players wanting to be in college. Ryan Masada Gasso has a whole
yeah,
platform called Recruiting Simplified that is incredible. But you know what? I would have struggled as a player with it because it's so much about promoting yourself. They need to do that. But what if, as a program, we came along outside of them and not just shared their information, but also put more out to where they feel like it's not just them. Like we have an entire staff and program behind them and players and families that celebrate them. I think that's a way that we can use social media.
right. And I want to just like full transparency too. I will say when I'm in the heat of the season, sometimes I do get bogged down, and that's where my assistant coaches come in and say, "Hey, did you see so and so had a video? We had this guy. His name is Kenny with Hoop for Life, and he did a whole like documentary on us." And he was doing like player video. It was just so much video coming out, man. And so for me, I'm in my lab watching film and trying to scout. And so after a while, I was just like, hey, man, just telling my assistant coaches, just let me know if it's something we need to post. Because right now, I'm not really,
Yeah,
watching it the same way that I normally do. But it
man.
definitely is out there.
For younger coaches that are starting out, are assistant coaches, I think it's we're getting to the point at the high school level where obviously your basketball background is important, but if you could also add on your resume social something with Photoshop, social media, like organize. I don't even know, coach. I
All
don't even
right.
know what it'd be called. Like, I think those people will become very valuable because I know for me, yeah, I do care about like X's and O's and development and relationships, what you can bring to our program with that. But I do all of it. Like if you go to at GFCSMBB, I'm the only
Mhm.
one who does that. And coach, it can feel like a full-time job. that would
Yeah.
be a way for an assistant coach to maybe get a leg up over other resumes that are also being put in front of that coach.
Hey, I agree with that. 'Cause you definitely need it. You need that positive impact on social media for your
Yeah.
program.
Yeah, but even at because obviously at the college level they've got humongous staffs. They do and NBA they do an incredible job. But like I'm thinking of guys like Duncanville High School, like they have somebody that is just their social media account and they do all the everything like employed. That is next level. But I don't know about you, Grade Five Faith Christian School, not that Duncanville budget, but yeah, it's just something that I think we do need to be aware of. I don't know a lot of coaches are, but let's figure out ways to maximize that presence. Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.